So in this video, we are looking at circles and circumference. So a few definitions to start with. First of all, a circle is the set of all points in a plane that are the same distance from a point called the center. So that's our technical definition. You all know a circle when you see it, but it is important to know that, right, everything on the actual circle is the same distance from this center point. So some other terms that we use, the radius is the distance from the center to any point on the circle, and the diameter is the distance across the circle through the center. And you can probably tell looking at this that the radius is exactly half of the diameter, and therefore the diameter is twice the radius. So you can see down here we've got both of those. The diameter, d, is equal to 2r, 2 times the radius, and the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. So we can practice, and we will just now, how to actually calculate those when we have one and not the other. So for example, so the diameter of a circle is 20 feet, and we want to find the radius. So we know the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2, so that's just going to be 20 divided by 2, which is 10 feet. And then in example B, we're given the radius of a circle is 7 meters, and we want to find the diameter. So remember that the diameter will be equal to 2 times the radius, and we know that the radius is 7. So 2 times 7, we get 14 meters. That's our diameter for this green circle. All right, now our next vocabulary word is the circumference. So the distance around a circle is the circumference, right? You could think of that as the perimeter of a circle, but we call it the circumference. Now, the ratio of the circumference to the diameter is the same for every circle, and its value is represented by the Greek letter pi. Okay, so two different approximations that we can use for the value of pi. Since pi is an irrational number, it's got a decimal that just keeps on going and going and going. So we can either use 3.14 when we just want to do kind of a rough estimate, or we can use the improper fraction 22/7. So both of these are commonly used as approximations of pi. So we have the equation here for the circumference of a circle, and that is just c, the circumference, is equal to pi times the diameter. Or we could also write this as the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. And you'll notice we have 2 times the radius here, which is the diameter. So just two different ways of writing this depending on which measurement we already have. Sometimes we have the diameter, so we would just do pi times the diameter. And sometimes we have the radius, so we would do 2 times pi times the radius. So let's look at this first example. Find the circumference of the flying disk. Use 3.14 for pi. So here we're given the radius, so we can do c is equal to 2 times pi times r, and we're going to use 3.14 for pi. And our radius over here is 5. So we've got 2 times 3.14 times 5. And we know that 2 times 5 is 10. So now we have 10 times 3.14, which would give us a circumference of about 31.4 inches. Okay, and then we've got part B says find the circumference of the watch face. Use 22/7 for pi this time to practice both. And for this one, you can see we have the diameter is 28 millimeters. So c is equal to pi times the diameter, and that'll be 22/7 times 28. And that works out nicely for us because we can simplify here. 28 divided by 7 is 4, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. So our circumference is equal to 22 times 4, which is 88 millimeters. So one last problem here. We're going to look at a semicircle, and we can see that a semicircle is exactly half of a circle. So if we wanted to find the perimeter Obviously, that's a really bad example of a circle, but you get the idea. If we wanted to find the perimeter of this semicircle, we can see, first of all, that the semicircle is half of our circle. So we can see that relationship to the circumference, right? This region here would be half of our circumference of a circle that had a diameter of 6 meters, right? The circle would have a diameter continuing around like that, and we want half of that. But the other piece we need to remember is that if we find half of our circumference, we also then have this piece here, the diameter, 6 meters, that would make the rest of the perimeter. So what we're going to do is find half of our circumference, and then we're also going to add those 6 meters there to find our perimeter. So let's look at that. We know that circumference is equal to pi times the diameter, and our diameter here is 6, but again, the perimeter is going to be half of our circumference, right? So we're going to do, our perimeter will be pi times the diameter divided by 2, and then we're also going to add the 6 meters here, which is our diameter. So that'll be 3.14 times 6 divided by 2 plus 6. Again, we're adding 6 because that's this piece here that would make up the rest of our perimeter. So I'm going to start with 6 divided by 2 here. That leaves me with 3. So now my perimeter will be equal to 3.14 times 3 plus 6. So we get 9.42 plus 6. So our perimeter would be 15.42 meters.